Hello, everyone. Recently, Daystar made the decision to terminate my son, Jonathan Lamb's employment. That decision was not taken lightly.
Earlier this year, one of the biggest influences on Christian broadcasting in the world, Daystar, came under fire from one of their own, alleging some very ugly events going on behind the scenes. The heat even reached a peak when it was discovered that the allegations came from the son of the founder, Jonathan Lamb. In a bid to save the network's image and that of the family, Jimmy Evans got involved and ended up heating the situation even more with what he said about Joni Lamb. Do you want to hear all about it? Just stick with us as we unravel this shocking story. Born into the ministry of Christian broadcasting, Joni Lamb was a huge force to reckon with. Having grown up in a very religious environment since her childhood, it actually laid the foundational plan for her life's mission, making a difference in people's lives by setting her heart to ministry with the sole commitment to spreading hope and salvation. Everything changed when Joni met Marcus Lamb, a young man who had the same faith and a dream to make an impact on the world through Christian media. It would be a marriage between Joni and Marcus that joined not only their lives together, but also set in motion their later career in Christian television. They had come together to create a place that could bind believers together and reach millions with the gospel. This is how Daystar Television Network was born, and today it is one of the largest faith-based networks in the world. Daystar was built from scratch by this couple as they poured in their energies, resources, and unflinching belief. Over time, this devotion began bearing fruit as Daystar continued to grow and expand by reaching out to inspire multiple people across the world. Their marriage was sealed with a mutual commitment to ministry, building a family in love. Joni and Marcus were blessed with 3 children, the fountain of their joy and source of inspiration. The Lamb family modeled what they preached, making their home a hub of faith, love, and family time. The two had stood side by side, not only in this ministry but in life too, through every high and low with a thankful heart. As Daystar continued to grow in its reach, it remained a source of hope worldwide. Joni and Marcus host shows that bring believers together in spiritual, emotional, and practical areas of living. The work they do powerfully touches the lives of multitudes, testified by viewers whose lives were changed by the message on the network. With this channel, the Lambs gave voices to great Christian leaders, worship artists, and speakers so the people would hear the Word of God. In 2021, tragedy struck as Marcus Lamb died suddenly, plunging Joni, their family, and the Daystar community into deep grief. It was a personal and professional blow of the worst kind. He had been the on-air visionary, and without him, the future of Daystar was uncertain. Many wondered how this network would go forward without the dynamic duo that had built it into a global phenomenon. In the face of such a great loss, Joni showed much resilience and great faith. She drew strength from her unshakable faith in God, adding to the love of her family and community that helped her through this hard time. Determined to continue his legacy, Joni grasped the mantle to keep Daystar moving, continuing its mission of hope and encouragement. The moment Joni assumed the role of the lead pastor of Daystar Network, everything about this network continued on the path of growth. To fill for the loss, the remaining members of the network continued not only with quality but even expanded its reach. Under her leadership, Daystar continued to grow, and on-air programs inspired audiences. Since Joni has been so connected with audiences through the ministries over the years, she took Marcus's vision further and put her signature on this network. The Lamb family has been instrumental in this transition, and equally committed to Daystar and its mission. Her children were strong legs upon which Joni leaned and kept the values championed by Marcus, most importantly, for the greater support of Daystar, viewers, and partners who gathered around Joni in this time with prayers and encouraging words. With Joni's persistence, this seeming impossibility somehow turned into a positive door for growth. She just kept hosting her programs with guests, showing viewers the same appeal and sincerity they had accepted. Being able to let people know on a personal basis, the mission that the network is undertaking. Joni's story is one of faith, love, and commitment. Her partnership with Marcus was one of the cornerstones in their shared accomplishments, and to be able to continue his vision says much about her character. Through Daystar, Joni made sure their mission continued to touch lives and instill hope in the lives of those in dire situations. Following the challenges Marcus's death placed before her, she has grasped her calling as a leader and beacon of hope. It is not just her steadiness that keeps Daystar going, but also the sea of people who draw strength from their journey. This somehow captures how Joni salutes her husband's memory while she forges ahead. It is a tribute to their collaboration and their vision for the world. Faith, family, and survival have been Joni Lamb's anchor. The death of her husband, Marcus Lamb, thrust her into the overwhelming responsibility to carry on their shared mission at Daystar Television Network. As she worked her way through her grief and the challenges before her, Joni was standing firm, reliant on God to lead her to the next chapter of her life. It was during this time of personal and professional transformation that she met Doug Weiss, a man whose life's work revolved around healing and restoration, much like Joni's mission. Doug Weiss was a well-respected counselor, author, and speaker, known for his expertise in marriage and family therapy. Over the years, Doug has built a reputation for helping countless couples mend their relationships and rediscover intimacy through his Christian-centered counseling approach. He had a huge, thriving counseling center and was the author of several best-selling books on marriage, recovery, and growth. He was respected within most circles of faith. By having his work affect so many people's lives, he became the go-to person for healthier relationships, spiritual renewal, and encouragement. As for Doug himself, he did not find everything that easy. At one time or point in life, he was married and later divorced. It was quite heartbreaking at that time in his life, considering that his work focused on the reconciliation of couples. A whole lot of attention was put to him owing to that, with people surprised at the outcome of his own marriage. Some have even wondered how a man who had given his life to helping other people save their marriages could face the collapse of his own. Critics pointed accusing fingers at the apparent hypocrisy, while others were sympathetic, realizing that even the strongest among us are tried and at times found wanting. It was a really humbling experience for Doug, one in which the dynamics of relationships would be increasingly made real to him. However, Doug has remained strong, using those opportunities to encourage people to embrace transparency and accountability. This experience made him relate more with the plights of his clients, allowing him to give them more informed advice. It was sometime later that Joni and Doug would meet through what both described as a God-orchestrated convergence. At the time, Joni was still grieving Marcus and wasn't pursuing anything new. All her attention was given over to family, Daystar, and the Lord. As for Doug, he too gave his heart afresh to service as a counselor and minister of the gospel. It was then that their life courses converged, bringing two sets of people together whose missions were irrevocably intertwined. Their first meeting was one of shared purpose and respect for each other. Joni admired Doug's devotion to serving others, and he was impressed by her fortitude and faith. The more time they spent with each other, the more meaningful connection they found in the things they had in common. Each had experienced a major loss, and their faith had seen them through and molded them into strong yet compassionate individuals. Doug was an example of a good listener and supportive, which struck a chord with Joni, who has carried immense responsibilities since the death of Marcus. For the first time, Doug was impressing his character marked by warmth, graciousness, and unshakable loyalty towards her family and ministry. They enjoyed being around each other so much that the shared faith formed the strong base for their building bond. The two finally married amidst celebration and skepticism. Supporters viewed their union as a beautiful testimony to God's ability to bring new beginnings even after seasons of profound loss, while others, however, raised concerns especially regarding Doug's past divorce. Critics wondered if he is fit to be a spiritual partner to Joni since he has quite a past. To marry Doug, Joni had to make that call. For her, it wasn't about appeasing public opinion, but rather following her heart and trusting God's plan for her life. The intimate wedding celebration was between them, their families and friends who had journeyed with them. The union between Joni and Doug is representative of hope, healing, and the beauty of second chances. Together, they see a future in which their collective strengths can be put into action to further their mutual mission of shedding light and love into the world. As the months and years went by, Joni and Doug became an unstoppable team, coming together to increase not only the reach of Daystar, but also the ministry. Doug's counsel further complemented her leadership because they could address a wider spectrum of issues facing their audience. They co-host programs and workshops, speak at various venues, and from this podium inspire and uplift the spirits of others. Though Joni and Doug's marriage isn't without its challenges, they remain deeply committed to one another and the mission they share, taking whatever criticism and judgment, while focusing on the benefits of their work and disregarding whatever the critics say against them. Their story is one of faith, resilience, and love. Joni and Doug's marriage continues to touch people's lives, offering hope and encouragement through trials. It's a marriage of not just personal triumph, but also, most of all, testimony to the changing power of God's amazing grace. Thus, they have made some memories together, embracing promises for a new future and never forgetting the lessons their past brought, reminding them and others that with faith, anything is possible. However, the marriage faced serious opposition due to certain circumstances. One of the most vocalized opposition to the union was Joni's son, Jonathan Lamb. As a big part of the Daystar television network, Jonathan had grown up in the shadow of his parents' powerful partnership and took much responsibility in the ministry after his father Marcus's death. His doubts as to his mother remarrying Doug were not only personal but deeply intertwined with issues of leadership, legacy, and the spiritual mission of Daystar. Jonathan refused to give his consent for the marriage because he reasoned that, from a point of view of family reputation and network poisoning, following the wave of sorrow and respect displayed upon Marcus's death, to remarry, especially to someone like Doug Weiss, whose own divorce remains controversial, would smear the sanctity of his father's memory. Jonathan had always feared that such a union would divide the Daystar community, since Marcus was highly regarded among them as a spiritual giant. To Jonathan, it felt like some digression from the years they put into building the legacy of their family. Along came Jimmy Evans, a highly respected pastor and marriage expert who had been a close spiritual mentor to the Lamb family. Evans has made a career out of mediating conflicts and offering biblical guidance, and so he took it upon himself to address Jonathan's concerns. At one particularly heated moment, Evans apparently told Jonathan that his mother's voice was the voice of God in this matter, therefore he should trust her judgment and support her decision to marry Doug. However, this intervention didn't have the desired outcome. Evans's speech was so deeply offensive to Jonathan because it undermined his legitimate concerns. He even pushed the idea that Joni's remarriage was some sort of plan from God that shouldn't be debated. By the sound of this, Jonathan perceived it as manipulative, and it eliminated the possibility of a resolution. As was probably predictable, the public disagreement between Jonathan and Evans got out of hand pretty quickly, with the broader controversy blowing through the Daystar community and beyond in no time. Piles mounted to a fever pitch until Jonathan, in an effort to be heard, made a shocking revelation. In a series of statements, he made claims of abuse on his wife and daughter had suffered at the hands of members of the Daystar camp. These revelations, Jonathan said, painted a toxic environment allowed to fester under the cover of spiritual leadership. He went ahead to accuse them of building a culture of intimidation and control whereby institutional loyalty meant more than the well-being of their members. Accusations by Jonathan sent shockwaves through the world of Christian broadcasting. Once an icon of hope and faith, Daystar was under the microscope. Opinions polarized to the defense of either Jonathan's claims or to the defense of Joni and the leadership. Skeptics couldn't believe how a ministry so committed to proclaiming the gospel could get tangled in accusations. Supporters of Joni and Doug immediately joined the defensive bandwagon, labeling the charges an emotional reaction to their marriage. The revelations brought swift and far-reaching repercussions for the Lambs. In short, the media emphasized the story, which only worsened the whole situation. Those who have consistently been in conflict with the network, however, did not let go of a golden opportunity seeking to question the integrity of the network. To help stop the growing pressures, Joni issued a statement promising an investigation, implying that Daystar will continue to be a safe and welcoming place to anyone. She spoke much about loving her son and always hoped for reconciliation despite the differences that existed. Doug Weiss himself wasn't left behind in the mess either. Critics cited his prior divorce and called him the wrong spiritual partner for Joni. Doug remained very constant with Joni and the network. He offered his full support as she went through these difficult times. He iterated the need for accountability and healing within the family and the organization. Jimmy Evans's involvement also came under scrutiny. While some praised his efforts to mediate the conflict, others criticized his approach, arguing that his statement about Joni's voice being the voice of God had inflamed tensions rather than resolving them. The controversy highlighted the delicate balance between spiritual authority and individual agency, raising questions about how decisions are made and communicated within faith-based organizations. In a bid to get the dust to settle, the network ordered an independent investigation into the claims, in a bid to protect its own image. However, the investigations cleared those accused, and this didn't sit well with Jonathan, who had claimed that the network was doing everything possible to protect its image. This was a controversy that struck at the very heart of Joni's marriage, and subsequent revelations speak deeply to family dynamics, faith, and leadership. She admitted that this was perhaps one of the most profound testing periods where tremendous strength, grace, and faith were needed to get her through. Though they face a troubling time in the history of their family, the Lamb family saga has been a story about resilience and redemption. In many instances, the scandal brought old secrets to light but simultaneously introduced improvement. The Daystar team now came out with their sense of purpose restored regarding a myriad of issues brought forth by this scandal to their global audience with respect to their message of hope and healing. However, these were very difficult times for Jonathan Lamb, who found it difficult to believe that his own family would cherish public image above looking into his concerns. Before all the drama, the Lamb family has always been a symbol of unity and hope that is rare in most families today. People looked up to their message and their way of life, and never imagined that there could be anything that would break this bond. However, as the recent issue pushes on, cracks seem to appear in the family's bond, and things are starting to take a new turn. In a crescendo of what is already a very tense situation, Jonathan's allegations further splintered whatever unity was left in the family and increased public pressure for detailed internal scrutiny of the inner workings of Daystar. The situation has pushed Jonathan further apart from his mom and led to his and his wife's exodus from the network, lamenting about the abuse and the attempted cover-up by the ranks at Daystar. They reiterate that what is going on at Daystar is opposed to the image that they present to the public. Jonathan has very publicly clashed with his mother's remarriage to Doug Weiss. He was vocal then, and has since become a prominent critic following his revelations concerning abuses within the network. He loudly denounces this, as he describes, one large culture of secrecy and complicity. He went ahead to say that, instead of ensuring the allegations of this abuse were dealt with in a forthright and fair manner, some of these Daystar leaders had been more concerned with protecting the image of the network and saving their positions in power. Jonathan further declared that such a cover-up even protected people accused of abusing his wife and daughter, a thing he could never forgive. The immediate reaction that followed was swift. Such claims from Jonathan presented an immediate threat to the place of credibility for an organization built around its faith, family, and integrity, and it received pushback from the ranks at Daystar, including his mother. Supporters claimed the accusations against the network and its leadership were baseless, and that Jonathan was being blinded by grievances regarding his place in the network. Immediately, critics seized on his statements as proof of more deep-seated problems and called for accountability and further independent investigation. As the controversy unraveled, the heat was turned up on Jonathan and his wife. He said the decision to resign from Daystar was far from easy. It came out of what he said was an irreconcilable conflict between their personal values and practices they were observing within the network. In a public statement, Jonathan now claimed it was the only way to protect his family and also guard their integrity. He declared his heart was heavy as a consequence of the fracture in their links with the network, while at the same time highlighting his concerns over abuses and cover-ups. The resignation from Daystar sent shockwaves across their community. His absence and that of his wife was felt within the organization since he had been part of it for a long period of time. Being the oldest son of Marcus and Joni Lamb, Jonathan had been part of the leadership in the network and was trying hard to push his father's legacy. The separation has marked a public indication of deepening family splits and sparked speculation on what Daystar's future was, at a point when the outfit wondered whether it could successfully weather the latest storm in years of controversy. Joni Lamb herself admitted how difficult the whole situation has been in an interview, highlighting an almost impossible balance of being a mom and carrying the responsibilities of heading the biggest Pentecostal television ministry. She has released several statements of affection toward Jonathan and the commitment to pursuing truth and justice while supporting the leadership team of Daystar for their integrity. Her allies have rallied to her support to praise Joni for hanging in there in her battles. Doug Weiss, now Joni's husband, also found himself at the center of the controversy. Critics questioned his role in the escalating tensions, accusing him of exacerbating the family rift by not fostering reconciliation. Weiss, however, remained steadfast in his support of Joni, asserting that the accusations against Daystar were unfounded and unfair. He expressed empathy for Jonathan's pain, but emphasized the importance of moving forward as a family and a ministry. Jimmy Evans, whose earlier intervention had already drawn criticism, faced renewed scrutiny. His advice to Jonathan, declaring Joni's voice to be the voice of God, was widely debated, with some viewing it as a misguided attempt to assert spiritual authority and others seeing it as a genuine effort to mediate a complex family dispute. Evans largely stayed out of the public fray during this phase of the controversy, but his earlier involvement remained a point of contention. These events have polarized the broader Christian community. While supporters praise Jonathan's courage to speak out against perceived wrongs, even framing him as a whistleblower standing up for justice, others criticize him for airing private family matters in a way that hurt the mission and reputation of the ministry. That debate has spilled into the broader discussions of transparency and accountability and the place of family dynamics within faith-based organizations. In no way would media interest in the controversy subside, as each new development that came forth was carefully dissected to ramp up tensions between Jonathan and Daystar's leadership. While an independent investigation was still being demanded, several advocacy groups and concerned supporters called on Daystar to take serious steps towards concrete actions as a way to start believing in them again. However, Joni did not step back from the commitment to the Daystar mission and went ahead to declare a series of steps that were to be taken in trying to resolve the allegations and then to see more accountability incorporated within the organization, including the creation of a completely independent panel to investigate the abuses being alleged and the development of new policies which would introduce workplace safety with full transparency. These were hailed as positive steps, yet it still faced some criticisms, as some felt it wasn't enough and that it wasn't a timely intervention. It came at a time when the damage to the reputation and harm to the relationships of the Lamb family was already done. For Jonathan and his wife, leaving Daystar marked a new beginning. Although the public criticized them, solidarity came from different quarters, which hailed this as a case of the couple standing their ground in support of family well-being and principles. he went ahead to speak publicly about his issues, which he had brought before them. By sharing his story as a word of caution, Jonathan was demanding reforms amongst all Christian organizations. The controversy's fallouts were wide, from the Lamb family to the general faith-based community. It puts in sharp focus the hiccups of navigating through the maze of leadership and accountability amidst personal relationships in the context of a high-profile ministry. Jonathan's exit story from Daystar is one of heartbreak and resilience, and one underlining the challenges that exist between familial loyalty and the call for truth and justice. At the time of his passing, Marcus Lamb was a highly endowed co-founder of the Daystar television network, with the legacies of faith, family, and the dream of global evangelism through media. He oversaw Daystar's growth into one of the largest Christian television networks in the world, with its signal broadcast into millions of homes across multiple continents. To the thousands of people who watched him, he was a leader with a passion to magnify the message of Jesus Christ through every available door of technology. It was his charisma, theological insight, and commitment to evangelism that defined the identity and mission of Daystar, making it synonymous with hope and spiritual guidance. Central to Marcus's legacy is the ability to bring faith communities together. Daystar gave a voice to Christianity, from sermons and songs of praise to inspirations across denominational lines. Its focus was on inclusivity and accessibility for followers from all parts of the world, thus making Daystar a staple in Christian media. Marcus also spoke to family values with his wife, Joni Lamb, making sure to point out that this was not a network at all, but a ministry founded upon love, integrity, and lifting others. However, the network's vision and stability of legacy have always been in question in the recent past. The Lamb family controversy has drawn accusations of abuses in network leadership, hence giving Daystar a bad reputation. Public accusations by Marcus's son Jonathan that abuse is being covered up within the ranks in Daystar promoted a very public family split and raised questions about the organization's commitment to transparency and accountability. For an institution born of faith and righteousness, the claims have been deeply unsettling, with scrutiny from both supporters and critics alike. The very public departure of Jonathan from Daystar along with his wife only further complicated matters, as he is the eldest son of Marcus and was being groomed to eventually take over the reins. He was in every way considered the natural successor. His exit left a gap in the network and came to symbolize the demolition of the initial image of unity and strength that the family presented to the public. Speculation by the public and the media regarding problems with Doug and Joni Lamb's marriage was not helped when Jonathan and his wife quit the network, and it did hurt Daystar's mission. The bigger debate the controversies have opened is related to accountability with regard to faith-based organizations. Several calls have come from a good number of Jonathan's followers for independent investigations and systemic reforms. They say Daystar will have to clean house over internal problems if they want to keep Marcus's legacy intact. They also use the apparent lack of transparency to further illustrate the point as a sign that Marcus's dream of integrity and righteousness is being compromised. Meanwhile, Joni Lamb has had to bear the mountainous responsibility of trying to guide Daystar through these turbulent times while attempting to keep Marcus's mission alive amidst the family divisions. Despite these challenges, Marcus's legacy remains a touchstone for many Daystar viewers and supporters. His passion for spreading the gospel and pioneering work in Christian media continue to inspire. But these latest controversies have put in sharp perspective just how fragile that legacy is, and just how great the need for Daystar leadership to sort out internal wrangling and restore trust. This is how this network truly will continue with Marcus's vision and mission far into the future. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one.